Have you felt overwhelmed by all of the changes in the college application process? It's been almost 20 years, it's crazy to say that my students have been applying to Ivy Leagues and highly selective colleges like Yale, Harvard, Princeton, Stanford, MIT, and although so many things have changed with the SAT, the basics of college application have stayed the same. They're still looking for great candidates who will do great things at their colleges. I'm Alyssa the College Expert, and today I'll talk about the top 5 big issues in applying to college and thinking about college admissions. Before I get started, please subscribe. 96% of you are not subscribed to our channel, so turn on the notification bell to get notified whenever we share new content. We're going to talk about the top 5 issues that come up during the college application and college admissions process. And believe it or not, it was actually incredibly easy for me to make this list. I didn't realize that I'd been in college admissions and college application process for so long when I did the math today, and I was like, wow, it's been almost 20 years. This is insane. You know, they say everything changes, but everything stays the same. And in terms of getting into college, they're just looking for people who will succeed, who will graduate, and who will make them look good on the other side. So in that sense, like, nothing's really changed at all. So I would say the number one issue that I see is that people's GPA is lower than the school that they want to apply to. Sometimes I see these questions online, people will post in forums, if I have a 3.7 GPA, is that too low to apply to Harvard? Like, no, but you would be better off with a higher GPA, right? So if you want to go to a really highly selective school, know that you are competing against people who have perfect credentials. So I would say the number one mistake is that people don't start thinking about college until it's too late to make the kind of big change that you need to. If you're thinking about an Ivy League or a highly selective school, like a top college, you need to have a top GPA, and that GPA needs to start in 9th grade. So middle school, they're not going to look at, but they're going to look at what's called your cumulative or your cum, everything between 9th grade and the end of junior year and maybe a couple months into senior year. But the most important thing is that GPA is really high, and your class rank is also calculated according to your GPA between freshman year and the end of junior year. So if you are not paying attention to your grades in freshman year or sophomore year or both, that is, for many of my students, the kiss of death, because they come in and they're like, oh yeah, I have really good grades this year. I didn't do so well in freshman and sophomore year. And it's like, well, I mean, you can still apply and you still have a shot, but your shot would have been a lot better if your GPA were higher, So I would say that's the number one problem that I see, not taking it seriously early enough. Number 2, this is the biggest myth, and it's crazy to me that this is still like kind of out there circulating. There's too much emphasis on extracurriculars and not enough emphasis on what matters. I can't tell you how many parents I've met, especially who are like, oh, my son is the captain of this team and student body president and whatever, and he plays 2 instruments and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, well, what's his GPA? I mean, at the end of the day, these are academic institutions, right? And the reason you do extracurriculars is to distinguish yourself, to differentiate yourself from all the other people who are applying who also have great grades. GPA is more important. Don't spend a lot of time on extracurriculars at the detriment of taking care of what actually matters, which is your GPA. The other thing I want to say about this is broad, not deep. A college would much prefer you to go deep, i.e. take a leadership role in an activity that you've been in for 3 or 4 years, rather than doing a lot of different things. If you're going to be in the drama club, be in the drama club for the first 2 years and then get elected to an office in junior year and get elected to another office in senior year. That shows leadership, and that shows like tenacity, stick-to-itiveness. Just the fact that you were a member of like 70,000 clubs, college is not that excited about it. Number 3, many students do not start planning early enough to really distinguish themselves. Colleges are getting tens of thousands of applications. And now that so many schools are test optional, they're getting exponentially more applications with the Common App, and without having to take a test, it's just clicking another box. And so people are like, yeah, I'll click another box. Yeah, I'll pay another $75 to apply to that college. No big. Everybody's applying to more colleges, which means more colleges have more applications that they have to sort through, and they don't really know if you're like a serious applicant or not. So one of the ways that you can show yourself to be a serious applicant is to show interest in their school that shows that you're interested in their school early. So for instance, if I really want to go to Harvard and I'm thinking about studying, I don't know, history, what I would be smart to do is figure out what exists for me at Harvard that has to do with history. Maybe I just start reading some of the publications of a certain professor, and then I write to them and ask them a follow-up question, and that person is going to be so flattered and so excited that a high school student is reaching out to them. That's one of the best ways to distinguish yourself early. because everybody is doing the same thing, right? They're all trying to set themselves apart starting in senior year. So if you start in freshman or sophomore year, that makes you super different. Actually, a student came up to me the other day. I was giving an information session and said, I want to apply to an Ivy. And I said, okay, great. Here's what you need to do. Start reaching out to professors in a department you're interested in now, because that shows that you're interested in junior year. Nobody else is thinking about this. And the student walked away, and the teacher that I was giving the information session for, she was like, I don't think he's going to follow up. She was like, but that was incredibly good advice, and I wish he would. You know, we talked about that, how easy it is really to distinguish yourself and how people just aren't taking advantage of it. So really start thinking early. And the worst that can happen, you know, you write to a professor at Brown and then you decide you don't want to go to Brown. Like, have you lost anything? I don't think so. 4, talk about financial aid earlier. For a lot of families, it's really uncomfortable to share all of your financial data as a family. And that's legit. It makes total sense. But if your parents have been putting money away for you, that's important for you to know so you can figure out how much financial aid you need and what kinds of schools you're going to need to apply to get the financial aid that you will need to attend college. So if your parents have a huge college fund and they've been putting this away since you were a baby and they have like a couple $100,000, you can go wherever you want and financial aid doesn't matter. You can apply early decision and you don't have to worry about the financial aid situation. However, if you have an EFC of 0, an expected family contribution of 0, you'd be a heck of a lot smarter to only apply to schools that meet 100% of need because you know you're going to need that money to go to school. If you're like, okay, I can't apply to schools that meet 100% of need because my grades aren't high enough, then you're probably looking at an in-state college that has significantly lower tuition and where you can qualify for a different kind of assistance. You have to be thinking about all of that stuff when you start the college process. Sit down and talk to your parents. Sometimes we get this situation where parents are like, I don't want to divulge my financial information. Since the student is not an emancipated minor, you have to have the financial information in order to fill out the forms. Otherwise, financial aid's at a deadlock. So have the conversation early with your parents, and parents, if you are the ones watching this, have the conversation early with your student, find out where they're interested in applying, and be realistic about whether or not that's a thing that you can afford. The earlier you know, the better you can start planning. And remember to use bigfuture.collegeboard.org to tell you what's the percentage of need that they meet, and also to use the FAFSA forecaster and the net price calculator for that specific college. 5, leaving out supplementary information on the application. I cannot say this enough. Every student is a number. They have a GPA, they have an SAT score if you submit it, and they have some other supplementary information that's like flying around out there, right, in your application. But in terms of humanizing you and turning you from a number into a person. So I think of that as a Likert scale, like a spectrum, right? Where there's like a number on one side and a human being on the other. And your job is to move yourself from that number to that human being as much as possible. The more you tell them about yourself, the more you become a multifaceted 3D human being. You stop being a 2-dimensional piece of paper and you turn into a 3-dimensional human with feelings and desires and goals and things you've worked towards and tenacity and resilience and grit, right? And so every time you give them more information on a supplementary essay question, they are going to know more about you. And it's so much harder to say no to a 3-dimensional person than it is to someone about whom you know nothing, because then you have no personal connection. And remember that the way that humans communicate is through stories, right? Stories are how we communicate. Stories are how we understand each other. Stories are how we think about our history. So the more information you can give that tells your story and makes you empathetic, a person that's worth feeling empathy for, the more that they will thus invest. So answer every supplementary question, every optional question. It is not optional for you if you want to get into that school. This week, we talked about college application myths and debunked them. What kinds of issues are you worried about as you apply to college? What's been challenging for you during the process? If you need help with college admissions in 2023, don't forget to check out my video, How to Get into Ivy League Colleges. On top of that, a bunch of people have been reaching out, both students and parents, for my help with their college application and their college essays. I am always happy to help. Feel free to drop me an email or respond in the comments.